Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyihi wa mustafah. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah wa ba'd. Dear viewers, welcome to a new episode of Ask Huda to answer the questions which we received on our Facebook page. The first question we have is from brother Bilal Umar. Bilal says, is oral sex permissible? It is awful, it is disgusting, it is not acceptable, but when it comes to the word halal or haram, we have to find a reference. The Quran says, نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أن شئتم. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another ayah, فَإِذَا تَطَهَّرْنَ فَأْتُوهُنَّ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ. So it is perfectly lawful for every spouse to enjoy his spouse, the entire body, except one thing. فَأْتُوهُنَّ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ is to have an intimate relationship in the orifice which is created for this reason, okay, which is al-farj. Having an intimate relationship in the rear orifice is absolutely forbidden, one of the major sins, and it can take out of Islam. That is the only prohibition in this regard. Similarly, having intercourse during the menses. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْمَحِيضِ قُلْ هُوَ أَذًى فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ وَلَا تَقْرَبُوهُنَّ حَتَّى يَطْهُرْنَ فَإِذَا تَطَهَّرْنَ فَأْتُوهُنَّ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ. Which means they ask you concerning the menstruation. Say it is adha, harmful, because of the blood that carries germs and so on, the blood of the menses. So whenever there is blood flow, or whenever the woman experiences the monthly period, you should avoid having an intimate relationship with your spouse in this condition until she is in a state of tahara. And after the tahara, ائتُهُنَّ مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ, embrace them wheresoever Allah allowed you to embrace, as I mentioned earlier. The place where she may conceive and have a child and so on. So these are the restrictions, and this is what is allowed, which is everything in general. It is permissible for every person to see everything of his or her spouse. There is something called modesty, chastity, shyness, where, for instance, we know that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ never looked at the awrah of his spouse, and she never looked at his awrah. But it is not forbidden for any person to see his own awrah or the awrah of his or her spouse, of the entire body, including the major awrah. It is not forbidden. We have to be very specific. It is forbidden to touch your private with the right hand while urinating, not while taking a shower, not while washing yourself. In the hadith, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّمَا هُوَ بُضْعَةٌ مِّنْكَ. It's just a piece of you. It's a part of you. It's not something impure. But one hadith requires that if you touch your private with your palm, then you have to make wudu. Another hadith says it's just a piece of you. So a combination of that indicates it is permissible to touch your body and your private as long as you're not touching your private while urinating or answering the call of nature with the right hand. Okay? So which means that doesn't apply to touching the private of the other. I know that this is a very sensitive subject, But you cannot imagine how many questions we get in this regard. I cannot bury my head in the sand and say and act blind and neglect it, because these questions are from the youth. In America, a college student just asked me straightforward question, and she was a girl: is oral sex halal or haram? It is easy to say haram. Can you support that with a proof? Can you say it is forbidden due to the following reference? I can only say that it is imitating animals. It is disgusting. It is a place of impurity. It is a place of answering the call of nature. How can you put your tongue and your mouth there? Right? And that's why it's disgusting. Okay? It should be avoided because, unfortunately, this is all imported from the West. Western societies who have tried everything. When they are done and finished with women and having even the worst kind of intimate relationship, which is forbidden and it leads to kufr, okay, they went to have sexual relations with the same gender, homosexuality. And when they're done with that, they moved on to animals. They will not have an end or a red line. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Who is more astray than one who has taken his hawa, his lust or desire, as his own God? In a sense that whatever he desires, he does. Whatever they crave for as a lust, they do. Nothing is haram or restricted. And the widespread of the STDs, sexual transmitted diseases, is simply because of that. Mouth cancer, wal'iyadu billah, throat cancer. Think about it. The place of urination and the place of answering the call of nature, the place which is full of microorganisms, which are normal flora for this place. But it is not normal flora for the mouth, for the tongue which says Subhanallah, the tongue which glorifies the praise of Allah, the tongue which recites the Quran. So should it be avoided? Yes, it is recommended to avoid that. This is not our tradition. But again, I cannot tell you it is forbidden because of a straightforward reference. I hope this answer is very clear. Barakallahu fikum. What is the correct time for praying Duha prayer? Ashfaq Ahmad. Brother Ashfaq says the time for Duha prayer. The time has a beginning and an end, and an ideal time to pray Duha. A beginning about 15-20 minutes after sunrise, because before that, since you prayed Fajr until past sunrise, you're not allowed to pray any voluntary prayers. Its end, again, about 20 minutes before the sun moves from its meridian, before the adhan al-dhuhr. If you go by the calendar, you look in your watch, 20 minutes before dhuhr, okay, you can't pray anymore. The best time is an hour, couple hours before dhuhr, حين ترمض الفصام. The baby camels in the desert, in midsummer, where the sand is burning and the sun is like blazing. So the baby camels keep lifting their hooves and alternating because of the heat, excessive heat against the sand. So this is a time which is like midday or an hour before dhuhr. حين ترمض الفصام. Also, if you happen to sit after Fajr prayer in Jama'ah to make adhkar until past sunrise, it is best to pray the 2 rak'ahs, because in this case, the Prophet ﷺ said, you will get the reward of performing a complete Hajj and Umrah. Barakallahu fikum. Haitham from Jordan, or Haitham Jordan, says, I would like to know some English language resources regarding Islam to give to my Christian wife. Sure, absolutely. We have our organization, will be more than happy to mail you the needed books in over 100 different languages. not just the English and the French and Dutch. And no, we have, mashallah, books about Islam translated to over 100 different languages. The address is Islam Sims or islamcims.com. In Arabic, this is organization of Tabligh al-Islam, conveying Islam society. It is located in Alexandria in Egypt, and we have been sending literally millions of books by the grace of Allah. So if you can afford it, you can send at least the cost of the shipping. Otherwise, you will get it for free, inshallah, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you can go on and propagate the message. Also, we'll be sending thousands of copies of the Quran, translated the meaning of the Quran into English and hopefully into other languages. Very fascinating pocket-size Quran, and also it will be for free, inshallah. Make sure that those books and the copies of the Quran are not just sitting on your bookcase or in your bookcase for show. They have to be distributed and given to those who would like to read them, know about Islam, and so on, to benefit others. People are not paying money so that they can fill in the gap in your bookcases. Barakallahu feekum. Salihu Muhammad Kur. Salihu says, how and when do we perform the Istkhira prayer? Is there a supplication we should say before praying it? Okay. Al-Istkhira is one of the most famous prayers and acts of worship because the nature of the prayer. Everybody is in need for a consultation, particularly Muslims. Consultation before doing anything, moving to a new house, studying a particular major, going to school versus going to another school, traveling or not traveling, doing a business, marriage, divorce, engagement, buying something that has a value, investing here or there. So a lot of people, they keep looking for any person who can give them an advice, an expertise. Would you ever get any better advice from any person, from anyone other than the advice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who knows the hidden and the unseen, as well as He knows the manifest? Of course not. Alimul ghaybi wa shahada. He is a knower of the hidden and the manifest. So if this is the case, then Allah knows best what is good for you. Because of that, we should consult Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Jabir ibn Abdullah, may Allah be pleased with him and his father, narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to teach us al-Istkhara prayer as he used to teach us the surah of the Quran, as often, as much, as many times he would teach us the chapter of the Quran. So the Sahaba were fully aware of that. إذا هممت بالأمر إذا هم أحدكم بالأمر. If any of you is about to make a serious decision to do or not to do anything, let him pray 2 rak'ahs. Let him pray 2 rak'ahs of istikhara. Then say, اللهم إني أستخيرك بعلمك وأستقدرك بقدرتك وأسألك من فضلك العظيم فإنك تقدر ولا أقدر وتعلم ولا أعلم وأنت علام الغيوب. This is the introduction of the praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeking His help in His infinite knowledge, infinite power, to choose for you what is best with regards to your worldly affairs and hereafter abode. Then you name your thing. Oh Allah, if you know that marrying this girl or accepting the proposal of this man or buying this car or moving to this house or accepting this job or traveling to this country is better for you as far as for my dunya and deen and hereafter, then make it easy for me. But if you infinite knowledge, you know that it is not good for me, then take it away from me and take me away from it and decide for me what is best. Beautiful. That's it. End of story. I want to tell you that so long as I pray istikhara, I feel very comfortable. I feel the happiest. By the way, I do not worry about the results. After I prayed istikhara, I throw it behind my back. the worry, I throw it behind my back. Because I let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose for me. So He chooses for me in a majestic way that you can never imagine. Sometimes you're dying to get a thing, to marry that girl, buy that house, purchase this car, travel to this country. And Allah knows best, it's not good for you. You know, there is a second or a third choice which He abandoned, which is the best for you. So the Istkhira will redirect you to choose what Allah knows it is best for you. The question is when to make the dua, because the hadith says فَلْيَرْكَعْ رَكْعَتَيْنِ مِنْ دُونِ الْفَرِيضَةِ. We should pray any two rak'ahs of nawafil, either independent rak'ah which you initiate with the intention of praying Istkhara, Allahu Akbar, nafl, voluntary prayer. Or for instance, if you're praying the sunnah after Maghrib, the sunnah before Fajr, you can also intend to pray Istkhara. ثُمَّ لْيَقُلْ. Then let him say. The word ثُمَّ means then with a delay. So Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani and many other scholars concluded that the dua should be recited after you finish the prayer, while sitting and facing the Qibla. Okay, that is the dua. Before that, there is nothing to be said other than your intention, which is only by the heart and not to be pronounced. Now, Fad's Abdul Kareem, is the region of Najd traditionally Iraq or Saudi Arabia? It's a very clever question. If you're asking about the sound hadith, because the word Najd, there is a place in the peninsula which is called Najd, a whole area. Okay? But if you're referring to the hadith in which it's a sound hadith narrated by Imam al-Bukhari and others, when the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma barik lana fi shamina, oh Allah bless our Sham. Sham is Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine. This is all Sham. He prayed a couple times, Allahumma barik lana fi yamanina, oh Allah bless our Yemen. And Yemen is south of the peninsula, is known as well. Then when he was asked, what about Najdina and Najd? He said the fitna would rise from there. This is where the horn of Satan, this is the source of the trials and the fitan. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying al-fitna, the trouble would emerge and rise up from An-Najd. What is An-Najd? An-Najd is an elevated highland. So most of the scholars are of the view that An-Najd in this case refers to the Iraq area. The Iraq area and the relating countries or provinces. So we've seen the fitna of the battle of Siffin and Al-Jamal, the fitna between the companions. And today's fitan, I'm just conveying the message and the interpretation of most of the commentators of the hadith with regards to An-Najd is the elevated place where it comes from this area. This, if your question is concerning the hadith of Allahumma barik lana fi shamina wa fi yamanina, but when it came to An-Najd, he said this is where the fitan would rise from and emerge from. Nasr from Eritrea. Brother Nasr says, may I fast on behalf of my deceased sister who had some missing days from Ramadan? Yes, and you will be rewarded as well. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about making up the missed days of fasting for a deceased. He said, yes, this is similar to debt, where you have to settle on behalf of the dead person as long as you are his or her heir. And Allah's debt is more worthy to be settled. So it is recommended that you should fast on behalf of your sister to make up the days which she missed during Ramadan. Is it permissible to seek asylum in a Western country? It all depends. Asylum because of what? Fleeing from persecution? Yeah, why not? Fleeing from being targeted by tyrant regimes and dictatorship because you're a practicing person. They're either going to throw you in prison, like what is happening in many Muslim countries or so-called Muslim countries. Sometimes that is the only resort. Do we have a reference to that? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said to his companions, advise them to immigrate to Al-Habasha. And Al-Habasha, Ethiopia, Abyssinia, was a land predominated with Christianity. He said there is a king, but he called him a just king. He was Christian, was known as An-Najashi or the Nagas. He said, لا يظلم عنده أحد, because he will treat you fairly. And the Prophet ﷺ prophecy came absolutely true. When the Meccans tried to chase the Muslim immigrants, who immigrated? Amongst them Uthman ibn Affan, Ruqaya, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, and many other companions. So if it is the only way to flee the persecution, to seek an asylum in a Western country which is not Muslim, then it is permissible. Versus if somebody is living a happy life in a Muslim country, even if it is not like very good Muslim country, rather he hears the adhan, he attends the prayer in the masjid, and he sends his kids to schools, memorize the Quran, and he's living. Then in this case, why? Why should you choose the lesser instead of the better? The better is surrounded by Muslims, you hear the adhan, you hear the Quran, you can raise your kids in a proper way. Better than in a Western country. But if you have to, and that is the only resort, it is permissible. Ruqayyat Yahya, is it permissible to use hair relaxer? Or is this changes the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, that is not changing the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Using hair creams or relaxers is absolutely okay, whether for men or women. It's just to make your life easy or easier. Yunus Muhammad says, if we join the prayer in congregation, is the ruku' in the ruku' stage, should we repeat the unit of the prayer? No. Whosoever manages to join the imam in the ruku' before he rises up, you said Allahu Akbar for takbiratul ihram first, because many people neglect that. Many people who see this all the time, they come to the masjid late, they see the imam ruku', they say Allahu Akbar and they go for ruku'. Prayer is invalid. They haven't made the opening takbir. Oh no, my intention was to make this as the opening takbir. What about the movement takbir? To go for ruku'. So you miss one of them. So in this case, Allahu Akbar, then you stand. Then quickly Allahu Akbar again and go for ruku'. If you manage to make ruku' comfortably while the imam is still ruku' before he rises up, that counts as one rak'ah. There is a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, if you join the imam in even the last rak'ah, ruku', that counts as you join the prayer. Yani, you have attended the prayer. So this rak'ah counts while you are in ruku', even though you didn't get to recite Surah Al-Fatiha. And this is one of the cases in which you will be exempt from reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Salama to Yahya Aliyu says, what are the etiquettes of moving into a new house? Giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blessed you with a new house. There is something called al-wakira, which is to invite people for food, to make a walima. Walima is always recommended for any good event. Invite people, poor and family members, friends, neighbors, invite them for food in order to show gratitude for the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of moving into a new house and feed the people. So it is recommended any walima to celebrate and to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a blessings that He bestowed upon you is recommended. That you've done some business, you made some profit, you moved to a new house, you moved to a new country, you got your paperwork done, you got a new job. Allah blessed you try also to extend these blessings to others by inviting them to a feast or a walima. We ran out of time, brothers and sisters. Until next time, I leave you in the care of Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.